Hi guys, Luton here, and today talking about Hardline. Also, by the way, just a little warning: if you hear any smashing and banging, there's builders putting up scaffolding across the road from me. So yeah, thanks for waking me up this morning. Hardline, TitanLine. See, here's the thing: it's been very surprising what's happened with Hardline. I made like jokes about it because that's what I'm like before it came out. And you probably saw me like antagonizing every now and then other producers because they're going like, it's gonna be the best thing since sliced bread, and I was just like, yeah. So my little quips and little, kidney stabs about people being a little overexcited for things, and yeah, how did that work out? It's been very curious. And it's definitely starting to feel like Titanfall syndrome, which is my favourite coin of phrase. Titanfall was a really interesting one, right? Because I went and played it early, and a load of other producers, and we had a really exciting time with it. Really, really fun. I loved it. I loved that game. It was really, really great. Got to play it another time as well. Really, really good. Really enjoyed it. Game came out. Really enjoyed it for a couple of days, and then I was like, and so was everybody else, which was a strange thing, because how do we go from that? Hardline is starting to feel like that. Just from, look at the game views, right? Game views down. People are playing the game less than they are playing Battlefield 4, which is a weird thing. Battlefield 4 has been out for a long time, and this is like a brand new game. People should be on this playing 24/7. You should be like grinding it out, wanting to get on more. And it's a very bizarre one that's happening. For me personally as well, in terms of streaming and videos. My general stuff now, it could just be my core audience perhaps. But for me personally, like Hardline videos, views down. Streaming, views really down. My streaming, City Skylines does better than that. Armor does better than that. Grand Theft Auto does better than that. Pretty much anything. When I streamed Space Marine the other night, which is a game that came out in 2011, it did better than that. So it's pretty surprising to see those level of differences. But why would this be? I don't think it's necessarily right on just the game. I think there's a lot of other factors involved here. One is that if EA are planning to do like yearly releases of games, because we do feel that was where they wanted to go. They wanted to have a cyclical process, I think personally, it makes sense, they're a big company, they want annual profit margins, and I think that what they're trying to do is put out quality, they can't just have like something like DICE, where they were working on Battlefield games and they wait like 3 years before they produce the next game. From a company point of view, like from a business point of view, that's not necessarily so good, even if it does very well, because they want to see that nice regular money coming in, bam, 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 that's what they want to see. And so I think that's obviously, I think it's obvious to anybody that that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to have Visceral fill that gap between DICE Stockholm. And obviously you've got like DICE LA as well. There's a few little things going on around here. And so that's probably why look at how far ahead in advance they're advertising stuff now. It's quite weird, like how far in advance they were announcing, say, like Battlefield 5, if that is indeed what it ends up being titled. 2016, they announced that before Hardline even came out. That's weird. That's really strange. That never happens. Why did they do that? That's a really odd thing. That, for me, was a big ding 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 warning sign right there. Like, why would you do that? As I said before in other videos, I think it was mainly to placate your core Battlefield audience. People that were like thinking, cops and robbers, what the fuck? And they wanted to keep everyone on board and say like, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. Then you've got the Star Wars Battlefront as well. And as I keep saying, it's curious. It's not to say that like if you're a Battlefield player, you're not going to enjoy the game. And like I've said, you guys know that I enjoy a wide variety of games. That's why my second channel has got so many different things. That's why when I stream loads of different games. And so for me, it's going to be, I played the previous Battlefront games as well. So for me, whatever, I'm going to probably enjoy the game just fine. But I still feel like some core Battlefield players who maybe have, because I forget this, because I've been playing games for 20 years. I forget that some people have just started playing games with Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4 even. Battlefield 4, a lot of people that I've spoken to on the stream or things, that's like their first game that they've really played. So I forget this. And just because DICE are making it, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to play out at all like Battlefield. Now, for the people that love Battlefront, that's great. That's what they actually wanted to hear. And that's what I've been seeing in comments as well. Loads of people saying it's great that it doesn't sound like it's going to be just Battlefield Star Wars. So that's great for those guys. But yeah, so from a perspective of trying to keep people on side, I think that again with Hardline, maybe this is what happened. They sort of tried to, and I felt this all the way along, they were trying to sort of keep this, they were trying to walk this tightrope between keeping one side happy and keeping another side happy. And I honestly feel that's just the wrong thing to do, because you end up with just a kind of diluted product then. You'd be much better, as I said in my review, to just go down one thing. What do you want it to be? A tactical game or a stupid, like, let's just fuck around game? Decide. And this married up for me and the people that I saw that they invited to YouTube events, because it was a really mixed bag. It was, people that take the game very seriously through to people that just do crazy shit. And then you've got all the people in between. So that, for me, kind of mirrored, I think, what they were trying to do with the games in terms of the people that they were trying to attract to the audience, which was everybody. And, this also marries up then with Star Wars, with Battlefront. Because, like I said in other videos, I think that, for obvious reasons, they will be trying to create like the widest catchment of players that they possibly can by trying to appeal to hardcore players, softcore players, casuals. They want to kind of, and just maybe random Star Wars fans who haven't really played a lot of games. They want to just bring all those people in. Now that's fair enough, and that's an obvious thing to do, but it concerns me when that happens, because it means that you're not sort of really tailoring your game to any specific audience, which means that overall you could end up with a much more diluted product. And I think that was been the major problem with Hardline. But on the other hand as well, as I say, I think this year-on-year thing, there's a reason why that's a problem. Trying to do a game year-on-year, it's an issue because it's not actually that long to wait if you don't think you want to try that game out, which means that people are less likely to give it a go, right? Think of it this way. If a Battlefield game is only going to come out every 2 years, maybe even every 3 years, there's a couple of things that are positive about that. One is that they can obviously continue to support and develop the game, which is what they've done with Battlefield 4. Another thing is that they have a longer time to iron stuff out and just kind of get involved with the community and work with it there. So that it's like a project, Whereas if it's a yearly thing, you can kind of go like, and this is what I think happened with Hardline, is people kind of looked at it and they were like, well... And not to mention the fact they delayed it as well. By delaying the game, that was a positive thing. Everyone was like, yay, they've delayed the game. That means it's going to be awesome. Except for the fact that by delaying the game, it meant there was so little time left to wait up until Battlefront. People were like, oh, well, I might just wait. And I think that's what's going to happen more and more. If they start doing yearly game releases, people are going to look at the game and go, well, ordinarily I would have given it a crack. But now I just don't think it's going to be worth it. I'll just wait. And that's what's happened with Hardline. A lot of people, and I see a lot of people commenting this, and a lot of people that I know and a lot of people in my clan have all said the same thing. It looks alright, but why would I bother to get it when Battlefront is so close, and I think that game's going to be far better. That's the problem. And if that kind of undermines their plan of year on year. I think also they really, really need to start toning down their marketing. I don't think that's going to happen at all, but I really do think that that's a problem. They're ramming it down people's throats, and if you're like me, when people do that, it just pushes you further away. When people try to ask me or get me to do something that I don't want to do, if the more people try to get me to do something, the less I want to do it. The more people ask me, the less likely you're going to get a response from me. It's like, no, just let me make a decision. Don't tell me what you want me to do, And I think that that's how a lot of people feel. When they're constantly pushing like pre-order, DLC, pre-order, extra. It's like, all right, Jesus, enough. I think one of the other major problems, though, as I said, was just that, Visceral haven't really done a Battlefield game before. And I think that, they deserve a bit of slack cutting for that, like I said in my review. It's not necessarily really their fault that, they've been handed this and that they're working on this. I mean, I'm sure it was a really good project to work on. But obviously there's things that have been an issue there for us. Things that, despite a lot of feedback, were not altered. Stuff like the destruction, stuff like some of the gadgets and the way in which they worked. Some of the maps, like I said, seemed to be, I don't want to say lazily, there was probably constraints as to why that happened, but they were not as fully utilized as they could have been, especially when it come to the 5v5s, and how I said, like, for example, they've just been basically bumped down into the map, and it would have been much better if they'd have had like a specific building which was locked in other game modes but became unlocked in the 5v5 and was used specifically for that. That way they could have had construction buildings, industrial buildings, residential units, and that would have made a lot more sense to specifically tailor those modes through into that. So I think really the issue has been a contributing factor, but it speaks for itself. I mean, I don't think this game's going to live past this year, which I'm sure is a shame for them, but, you know, what do you want? It's just this combination of factors of other games coming out, walking this line down the middle, not producing a game which appeals necessarily to the core Battlefield audience, having a ton of issues at release, which, as I've highlighted before, it's kind of hilarious that now that we live in this world where things can be patched and updated, and by the way, where is that patch? Where is that patch? It's like been weeks. We should have had, like, bam, out of the gate. What's going on? Did people go on holiday or something? I'm just confused as to why it's been so long. And so, yeah, it's like, yeah, like I said when I was talking about SimCity the other day, SimCity was plagued at the very release of the game by issues. People losing their maps, traffic issues in the game, and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, it didn't get addressed quickly enough. But it did get addressed and it did get fixed, and now that game is enjoyable and playable, except for the fact that whenever I play SimCity and speak to people about it, they're like, oh, SimCity, isn't that a broken game? And they always say this, and it kind of highlights the fact that if you have a ton of issues at release, even if they get fixed, it's then tainted, and kind of people just associate it with that. The fact that Hardline had a load of issues at release in terms of spawns and weapon balance and all this kind of stuff, things which quite honestly should not have been there. I know, again, yeah, I've seen people speaking about the game and saying, like, overall it was really fantastic, smooth, perfect release, but there have been a lot of technical issues within the actual game stuff, balance issues. It's kind of hilarious that everyone was worried about the stability issues and not at all worried about the balance issues, because balance was something that we thought was going to be absolutely perfect, considering that we'd had tons and tons and tons of feedback sessions, multiple betas and all the rest of it, and you think, well, this game is being QA'd the hell out of, and they even boasted that in the second beta about how many people they had on that beta, and yet the very, very, very blatant issues with the game balance were there right from day one and still have not been addressed. So it's kind of surprising just how big those issues were, and I think that's been a kind of, you know, a weight around it as well. So yeah, it's just been this patchwork of issues really around the game, and I think that, you know, going into the future, it's going to be very curious to see how these things handled. I'm not going to say what's the right thing to do here, because, you know, I don't think my opinion is necessarily the way the majority of people feel. You know, I personally feel that they'd be far better off to, like I say, tailor specific things, focus on one thing. At least that way we'd know whether we wanted to play it straight out the gate, instead of this kind of like, do we want to play it, do we not want to play it? But I've got to tell you, you know, I don't feel particularly driven to play the game at the moment. Like I said, in terms of, you know, you look at other YouTube producers who are doing Battlefield, they're talking still more about Battlefield 4 than Hardline, because they know that that's where the views are right now. People are more interested in that than they are in Hardline. And this game has only just come out. That's insane. You know, people should be doing tons of map-like analysis stuff. They should be doing weapon breakdowns. They should be doing cool things. It's just not there. So we'll see what the future holds, but I think it's been a very interesting exercise. I'm going to be curious to see what happens. So as we move on to Star Wars Battlefront, the hype train is in full swing, top speed right now. Oh my god, I mean, did you not see like Polygon and IGN and all this stuff yesterday? My god, they were wetting themselves over it. Like, they were posting something about the game every single hour. They were like, oh my god, people want to read our websites again. And it's like, oh god, yeah. Not to mention the YouTube stuff. Anyway. I'm so miserable and now I'm happy. It's just curious though, isn't it? It's interesting to see how a game which was lauded, you know, really built up, and we're thinking, yeah, this is going to be something pretty interesting, and it's just kind of flat. It kind of sucks as well, because I actually think that the game is quite enjoyable. Like, when I'm on and playing with friends, it's actually really good, but something about it, it's got that X factor, kind of like with Titanfall. There's something there. Curious to see how things play out with Battlefront. I'm going to be very interested to see. Like, people are definitely going to be all over that game. It's going to be a massive seller, no question at all. But how much of that is going to be rose-tinted goggles? We'll see. I mean, it looks really great, but, and you know, the gameplay sounds very Battlefront, but again, is that going to transition into the audience that they're really aiming through right now, which is, of course, the Battlefield players? Let's see what happens. Tell me your thoughts below about Hardline, guys. I'm interested to hear what you think has happened with the game there, up to its release and its actual release, and going on into the future. Do you think that we should be seeing year-on-year game releases? If not, what timescale would you prefer to see for those games? Tell me down below. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, please drop a little rating on here, get involved in the comments, and consider looking at some of my other channels like Lutin Gaming and my Twitch streaming channel, twitch.tv/Lutin. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next time.